It's Mary Burns from Harrison's Hope. I am beyond delighted to share the freshly returned from the FASD conference in Seattle just last week, the wonderful, the fabulous Carl Young. Carl, thank you so much for joining us with such little rest between your last speaking engagement and this one. So on behalf of the Harrison's Hope family, thank you for joining us tonight. And I am going to say over to you.
It is an honor. And I am in recovery mode from the international conference. Yes. It was mind blowing and as an experience. I got tasked to present Friday in a 7-minute session to a pre-plenary thing, and then I was supposed to be part of a panel on Sunday talking about working with Indigenous communities, but I ended up getting sick, so I had to bow out and leave early. But that they recovered. They handled my part of that session very well and got through it. No major issues. So, and I thank the team when they do listen to this. I'm sure they will. They're not on the call tonight, but I'm sure that they will listen. So, where should we start? Do you want to open the PowerPoint, or should I?
Yeah, I'll let you.
Yeah, I've never shared my screen like that before.
Oh, well, then tonight's a first.
Yes.
I feel lucky.
You should.
Yeah, you should.
I don't want to
look at that handsome fellow.
There's me. So this is me at around 7 years of age. This is the only photo I have of me in my childhood.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's a handsome one.
Well, notice the shirt.
I did.
I remember this day. I remember probably dressing myself and telling mom to leave me alone. So this was photo day in elementary school. So yes. But this is our brief agenda. We birth to 17 days, and I mark that as a significant point in life. And then through age 8 and some things that happen, and then 8 to 17, which is a myriad of things. We'll talk about post-military life, my health, my midlife, and all of those things. So, but this is just a basic order. Nothing overwhelming. About me, of course, I'm a parent before I am anything else. In any of my work, I talk about being a parent first. Without my family, I don't think I would be doing the things that I'm doing today. So I am also an advocate, and as part of that, I'm also in the state of North Dakota a registered lobbyist, which means I go to the state during legislative session and educate our lawmakers and policymakers. I have college degrees in systems management, information systems management specifically. And I've found over the time that working within the advocacy space is a lot like systems management. And you have to learn how to juggle the things and talk to people on levels that they can understand. I have completed everything except the dissertation for my PhD.
Phenomenal.
And I mark those things as prominent, and I will explain why a bit later on. And I have FASD. I was diagnosed a year ago at the age of 52. And it explains so much about my life, and you'll understand why as we get going. So at birth, my parents' names were Mr. and Mrs. Charles E. Smith. That's how my birth record lists. That's how the birth announcement in the newspaper listed it. I don't know that they were ever married, but that's how it's listed. So I do know that Charles has been married to another person, or was married to another woman up to the time of his passing for more than 65 years. So I've never met him in person, but yeah, that's my dad. So I always ask this question when I give this type of a talk. What do Ronald McDonald and Houdini have in common?
I have no idea, Carl. What do they have in common?
When I was 17 days old, my biological father robbed the McDonald's restaurant in Minot, North Dakota. I'm told, or I was told by a detective at the time, that he was dressed as Ronald McDonald when he robbed the place. Yes, it's okay to laugh. Everybody can laugh. When I was
Bye.
when I learned that, I laughed long and hard, believe me. So on the Houdini side of that, Houdini was his nickname in prison because if you don't know Houdini, he was an escape artist.
Mhm.
So and Charlie, in his infinite wisdom, escaped from prison quite frequently. And I can remember snippets of time where we had to go into hiding. My
Mhm.
mom and my brother and I, and eventually my sister was included in that. And that occurred 17 days after I was born on March 28th, 1972. So yeah, it's the stuff of legend. You
I
don't
love
believe
it.
it unless it happens. So then oh, my screen's not responding. There it goes.
There you go.
My mom has always been mom. Okay. Even though I'm adopted, I was adopted by my dad, not my mom. Mom has always been a factor in my life. And the dad that I know has always been a factor in my life. And he's the one I will always call dad. Charlie is not dad. He's never been there other than to lie to us at various points. That's the only role he's ever played in my life. So my last name went from Smith to Young. And yeah, that happened before I was 4. I have no recollection of it. My mom and dad divorced roughly 4 years after they got married. So I was, I think, 5 when that happened. I don't remember that either. But they weren't together very long. And as a result of their marriage, I have a sister. So I have an older brother and a younger sister from this family. From Charlie's side of the family, I have more than half a dozen brothers and sisters. So, but they're all half siblings. After the divorce, mom had her own place, dad had his own place, and we shuffled back and forth between the two. I mark those things as important because after this point, I've had 5 stepdads that I know of. So some are more abusive than others, and the abuse and the trauma from the abuse does play a role in life.
Yes.
So I had my escapes. My escapes through this time were dreams. I dreamt I could fly. If I could jump off of a building, I could fly and not hit the ground. That was my dream. Never tried to do that. I never made any attempts to jump off the roof. I imagine people would have been a bit upset with me if I had. I ran away from home for the first time when I was 8, after seeing my brother get thrown through a wall by our stepdad.
Mm.
So, yeah, he is by definition not a nice guy. The 3 of us, suffered just about every kind of abuse imaginable at his hands. So, Dad finally laid down the law and said, if you don't leave him, we're going to take the kids away from you. So she left him. It was a hard thing. The nice thing about mom, the really wonderful thing about my mother, is she taught me resilience.
Yes.
After when bad things happen, you can choose to run away or you can stay and fight. Mom was a drinker most of her life. Well, all but the last 25 years of it. She was a heavy drinker. And her escape was the bottle, but she always got up and went to work every day. Doesn't matter if she was hungover or not, she provided for us the best she could. So that was just the way life was. Age between 8 and 17, I started spending time on the family farm with my uncle. He didn't have any kids. He's a confirmed bachelor his whole life. I was the closest thing to a son that he ever had. So I learned a whole lot about life from him, but I also learned to hide things. So, I learned about drugs when I was 12, not including alcohol, just
Yep.
street drugs. I started smoking. The mom used to send us to the gas station back in the day and say, get me some smokes. And it was just easy to steal them from her. And eventually she
Yeah.
said, stop stealing my cigarettes and go buy your own. So, that was just the way it was. So, and then it was easy enough to start drinking just as a power for the course. And mom never said anything about that until I was 15. In middle school, that was my safe place. That's where I went to sleep.
Yep.
So, yeah, I had a team of classmates that would wake me up at the end of class to make sure I got to the next class. And it was consistent that way all the way through high school. So I always had somebody that would wake me up. Hey, Carl, it's time to go to your next class. Somehow I graduated. I was on the school board once. I got elected to the school board a few number of years ago. And my high school principal said, he came up and did a presentation for us. And he said afterwards to me, he said, we graduated you so you would go away. so, so, but I was not an academic performer. That was not, it
Not
was
your
the least,
forte?
not my forte. It was the least of my concerns. But I also had the motto at the time, if it's not yours anymore, it's mine. It belongs to me. If it's not bolted down or chained down, it's mine. And it didn't matter what it was, from car batteries to cars to gasoline to diesel fuel. It didn't matter. I took it. I struggle to this day with impulse control when I go to the store. So I don't go
Really?
shopping. Yeah, I order online and have it brought up to the car because I've been able to resist that impulse since I was 16 years old, but it's always there. So I don't tempt fate. I just eliminate.
Yep. Remove the opportunity. Good plan.
Remove the opportunity. When I was 15, my mom thought I was losing my mind. So she put me in substance abuse treatment center. After a week,
That's a
insurance
good
said,
mom.
yeah. After a week, insurance said, nah, he doesn't need this. Send him home. And I didn't really need it because I wasn't drinking more than I was smoking a lot of weed. So, but after that, I changed friends because all of my using friends shunned me because they thought I was going to try to convert them to being substance free. And my mom actually preferred my party friends over my
Yes.
straight friends. She thought my
Oh
straight friends
dear.
were weird. So, are you sure he doesn't worship the devil? Because he looks like he worships the devil. No, mom,
Oh
he's,
dear.
that was the conversations we would have. So, but I was still stealing at that point. And then I got caught. My stepdad, who was a fantastic man that I never did the honor of calling dad, turned me in. He said,
Mhm.
this, my son or my stepson is doing this, this, and this. And he turned me into the police. He took me to the police department. He sat with me during the interviews. He supported me, and he was just a phenomenal human being. But I was on probation at that point. And my probation officer came to me and said, I see you having two paths in life. The first one would involve a prison system. In the second
Mhm.
path, I can take you out of your family home, place you in a group home, and you can change your life. I never ended up in prison because I chose the second option,
Good
which
plan.
people didn't, my family didn't really like that because we don't talk about family problems outside of the family ever.
Right. I had a
So,
similar family.
yeah, it was the best thing I could do at the time. Eventually, when I got back from the army, which is a later story, I went to work for that group home. And I was the
Mhm.
only male allowed in their all-girl facility. And even now, 32 years later, the girls still reach out to me and say, thank you. Thank you for showing me that
Wow.
not all men are evil. So it's been a varied life, a unique life, and in a lot of ways, though I wouldn't have recognized it at the time, an exceptional life. So this is me.
Hmm.
High school graduation, my family did not show for my graduation ceremonies. The family of a friend, I called his parents mom and dad, through my graduation celebration for me in conjunction with their own son's graduation party. We invited my parents to that and they never came. So
Wow.
right after high school, this was during right before the first Gulf War, I joined the Army because I knew I needed to continue and the structure would do me good and those things. And the structure in the Army is second to none. I imagine the Marine Corps would say it's better there, but I wasn't in the Marine Corps, so I don't know. But this is a picture of me at the Burger King in Mannheim, Germany, which is on
Wow.
post. Yeah.
Yep.
I thought I was a cool dude, had the mirrored sunglasses.
I love them.
Thankfully the mirror wasn't on the inside, but I was trained as a truck driver. I was all over Germany, saw some wonderful things, and experienced all that Germany had to offer. Um, I served in Missouri, Virginia. I spent a summer at West Point hauling cadets around.
Mm.
My group was tasked with teaching officers fresh out of college how to drive semis and
Mm.
other transportation. So, yeah, it was a challenge. At the time, I hated it, but I would give anything to go back and do it again. But yeah,
Mhm.
so it was
Sounds familiar.
it was an experience. So I made lifelong friends, people that I served with that are just phenomenal human beings that still reach out to this day. And the only thing we ever had in common was the color green.
Wow.
So
Those are special people.
yes, they are. After military, I returned to North Dakota. I'm not sure what brought me back home, but yeah, I became a father. 6 months after I became a father, I met my wife on a blind date.
Mm.
And we've been married for 30 years. So,
Congratulations.
I'm told that that's unusual for a lot of people with FASD, but I
That's
would,
unusual for a lot of people with or without
yeah, that's,
FASD.
that's what I said. Most of my friends told me I was crazy because we met in January, got engaged in February. We planned for a fall wedding, but her dad said, that's not going to work for timing with the farms. So we bumped
Yes.
it up to June. Within 6 months, we met and gotten married. 18 months later, we welcomed our first child, who had a big sister from my previous relationship. And just blossomed from there. So my wife and I have 5 kids total. My daughter from a previous relationship, um, and then our daughter was born in 1995, and then in January of '96, I started college. Now, keep in mind, everybody in my life to this point told me I was not college material.
You
Everybody.
proved them wrong.
And I proved them wrong. Yes. My wife and her family said, "What do you mean you're not college material?" So have you ever tried? So I enrolled in college. I originally wanted to be a history teacher at the high school. I had a student teaching experience at the high school and said, no. But I would go to college for the next 17 years. So and the neat thing, in October of '95, our daughter was born. So that we had 2 girls at that point. Um, December of '97, our oldest son was born. And then in March of '99, our middle son was born. Our youngest biological child. So I had reason to want to succeed. You know,
Yes, you did.
yeah. Anyway, so with the birth of our third child, I came to this question. I'll read it out. What does it mean to live honestly? Is it measured by the absence of hardship, or is the strength we find when facing it? And I've learned that authentic living can be found in resilience, the ability to rise after every fall, and the unwavering support of those who walk beside us. And this is where my FASD diagnosis truly begins. Not in childhood, but in adulthood, and I'll explain why. In June of 1999, we decided to buy a house for our growing family. We knew that we wanted at least one more child. But I started losing weight. And in the span of 2.5 months, I lost 100 pounds.
That's not
And
good.
the doctors had no idea why. The local hospital couldn't figure it out. After 3 weeks of trying, they couldn't figure it out. So they shipped me by air ambulance to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Before they did that, though, they brought my kids in so I could say goodbye. I won't talk about that more because I'll break into tears. So,
Nope.
yeah. So the ultimate diagnosis, initially they said they thought I had cancer, but the ultimate diagnosis was an autoimmune disorder called systemic lupus. So, life moves on. You know, we dealt with it. We moved on from that. I walked out of the hospital, and the most incredible feeling I've ever experienced was the moment I got home from the hospital. I woke our kids up at 2 o'clock in the morning and gave them all a big hug. So never forget that. So in May of 2005, I completed a master's degree. But before that, in 1999, and I mentioned these things specifically, 99, I had an associate's degree. I started teaching before I finished my degree because the college president said, this guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to web design.
Yes.
So in 2001, I completed my bachelor's degree, and the department chair came to me and said, you really know what you're talking about. Will you teach for us? And before I completed that degree.
That's awesome.
In 2003, it expanded, and I ended up teaching even more classes at the master's level, even though I hadn't completed my master's degree. So in 2005, when I completed my master's degree, and before I started my doctorate, I was teaching full-time at a business college. And yeah, I learned how to teach without using the textbook, and this is my first really major attempt at PowerPoint. I'm not a PowerPoint guy.
You did great.
I would rather stand up in front of a group and just talk. So my further health challenges. In 2007, I had a mini stroke, which is called a transient ischemic attack, or TIA for short.
Yep.
And then I began to have heart issues. Okay. I was 35. Yeah.
Much too young.
In 2013, I applied for disability because I experienced all of these things again. A series of mini strokes, a series of heart events, but never a full heart attack, just heart events is what they call them. And yes, I talk with my hands. So, and then I developed fibromyalgia, which is a thing that moves into your life and never goes away. It's like that relative that you want to leave. And then in 2016, I had developed essential tremors, which is really fun if you're drinking coffee, and I am a chronic caffeine addict. So in 2017, I developed myoclonic spasms, which are knee-jerk reactions from my legs, where they'll randomly kick out for no apparent reason. Most of the time, it's controlled medically with medication. But I also experienced more heart events and tremors associated with vertigo. So it began to affect more than my hand. It's a movement disorder, but they said if I didn't have the vertigo, I wouldn't have that movement disorder. I don't understand that. So in 2020, Dad's memory began to fail, and he's been a significant factor in life, so I count that.
That's a big deal,
But
Carl.
we had to deal with dad's estate. By we,
Yes.
it wasn't my siblings and I, it was my stepmom, my stepbrother, and myself. And it took us 10 months to go through dad's life. And my stepmom and dad had been divorced for 21 years at that point, and she still stepped up to help me. So,
Good
and she
people,
never,
Carl.
yeah, she never argued about that. So I gave a knee to my father. Had to have total knee replacement that year, which is an adventure. Um, in 2020, we also had COVID, and we lost mom to COVID in the early days. She's at peace. She had COPD because she was a lifelong smoker.
Mm.
Even she could not tell you when she started smoking. She said it was just always a part of her life. In a nursing home, I think of less than 20 people, the patients, residents, we lost 13 that fall.
Oh,
So,
devastating.
and that's in a small town.
Yep.
In 2023, I was diagnosed with stage 4 liver disease with severe fibrosis and scarring. I'm not a drinker, I'm not a heavy drinker. If I have 3 or 4 drinks a year, it's a heavy year. Mom was a chronic alcoholic up until 1997 when she stopped drinking because she developed cirrhosis of the liver. So to get this diagnosis without being a consumer of alcoholic beverages was just a punch in the gut. Yeah. And then I'll have to tell her on the side about this FASD diagnosis. December of 23, I was doing lunch and learn sessions for social workers here in North Dakota about FASD and what it is. So I did a preliminary assessment with the University of San Diego in California to see if I might have it. And I wanted to know what the assessment was involved with, so I could tell social workers about it for their clients. And they came
Sure.
back and said, you need to see a specialist. so, so I called the specialist that I know because I make referrals to him all the time, or I was making referrals to him all the time, and I arranged to see him. And I spent an afternoon with him, about 3 hours. And he said, well, yes, you do have FASD. It's likely alcohol related neurodevelopmental. So that diagnosis explained so much about my life, about my childhood, about why I am so much different from my siblings, and everything else. I didn't get confirmation of alcohol consumption from mom directly, but I did talk to my aunts and uncles who she was living with prior to Charlie being arrested, and confirmed it through them that she had been drinking. Her and Charlie had just moved back with a newborn baby from Southern California, where they had been living and were destitute. So she had a lot of turmoil in her life. Yeah, from all accounts, Charlie got her to stop drinking and doing drugs while she was pregnant with my brother. But things got bad for her, and she turned to the tool she knew best to cope with. So I don't hold it against her. In fact, if I could say anything to mom today, I would say thank you. Because without her, I wouldn't be here. So,
Mhm.
um,
And
and I call it the quilt of hope. Um, and because it's not, FASD isn't a feast by any means. It's not something people would want as a general condition. But it's also not a famine either. If you wrap yourself in your world around you like a quilt, you can hold on to that like it's hope, and use that to get through each day when the days are hard. And as my health is declining, I have more bad days than good. And to the point where I'm actually retiring from a bulk of my FASD work. I want to focus on telling stories. I want to focus on my life and the life of another that we don't have time to talk about today. We're going to talk about him in the fall, about how I came to
fabulous.
about how I came to this FASD journey and learned so much. But I've learned over time that, you know, life is just life. I mean, we had to do an autobiography for the child that we adopted. My wife and I each wrote a paper about ourselves, and mine was over 30 pages long. And when the social worker read it, she asked one question: how are you going to parent this child based on what your life was like? Because your life isn't reality. And I said, I'd go by Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver, Little House on the Prairie, Charles Ingalls, and those shows. And she said, well, that's not representative of reality. And I said, like you said, my life wasn't representative of reality. So I said, we're just going to do the best we can with what we have and go from there. I said, I'll raise them like I would have hoped to have been raised myself. And by and large, I think it worked out well. I have 5 children. We consider them all a success, some more so than others, but that's all right. I have 3 grandchildren, and I could not ask for a better life. If you had told me 25 years ago that I would be doing the things that I'm doing now, speaking to people like I am tonight, or like I did in Seattle, or like I have done over the last 10 years, I would have called you a liar. So there's no way I would be doing this. So, like I said here, it was by any measure rough, but it was all we knew. We didn't know any different, so to us, it was just life. We were kids living our dream the best we could. And my mom wasn't much more than a kid when she had my brother in it. So, that's just the way things were. Out of all of my siblings, from both my mom's side and from Charlie's side, I am the only one that I know of that is affected by PAE. So, but like I said, it explains so much about how I was to the rest of my family, how I was to the general public, and everything. So my wife and my family are my rock. There's nothing more to say about that. So, and these pictures, in the black shirt there I'm standing there with my mom. She's wearing a flowered shirt. We had just got done putting carpet in her house. And I'm not a carpet layer. But yeah, this was in 2013. But we recarpeted her house that weekend. And when I went to her house that day to visit, it was not in my agenda to be laying carpet.
I love it.
So, yeah. We learned a lot about each other that day.
I'll
There was
bet.
this was during our reconciliation period, because there was a period of about 10 years where she and I didn't talk. But at this point, we were rebuilding our relationship. And from here, I would say that our relationship was actually really good. We could call and talk to each other anytime, and there was no hard feelings. The next
That's
picture of her
wonderful.
is a photo of me and Dad. And I took this about a month after I had to place him in the nursing home. And every time I left a visit with him, he would try to leave with me. And this was me misdirecting him or redirecting him so that he would find something else to focus on, so I could leave and not have to
Yes.
be in tears trying to tell him to stay. And
Yeah.
then the bottom picture is my wife and I. You can see I have my full beard. There's a lot less gray in it. This is at a good friend of mine's daughter's wedding reception. So they had a photo booth, and so we went and got our photos taken.
I think that's a fabulous photo.
Yeah,
I
isn't it?
really do.
You know,
Yes,
um,
it is.
through everything, she's struck by me, or stuck by me. When I want to go and do something, her first question and concern is for my health. How is your health? Do you think that'll work for you? Can you get through this okay? What are you going to be like after? All of those questions. So, but if I choose to go through with something, she is my cheerleader. So, and then on the next here. I'll get my screen to cooperate. This is my mom.
Wow.
This was taken about a month before she passed away. She's has never been a big smiling person. But here I had told her a joke and she thought it was just as funny as could be. And she open laughed. And we caught this just at the right moment. So
What a special photograph.
yeah, it's
It really is.
one that I treasure. So, and that's the basic story of me. I could talk for hours. This is only really the second time because I don't usually talk about myself. I usually talk about other people.
I know.
So the adventure comes from the response to giving a talk about yourself. When I spoke in Seattle on Friday, I was overwhelmed with the response from the audience. And they said about 350 people were there. And they gave me a standing ovation. So
yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
I would have been in the audience this year, Carl, but I wasn't able to go. But
Well, no.
News traveled very quickly, my friend,
And
that you
then
had a standing ovation. And
for the next
I have Barb Clark to thank for a phenomenal photograph of you,
I haven't
which
seen
I
it.
will make sure you I will make sure you get a
Yeah.
copy of it.
I was I was given about 7 minutes at about 7:12 into the 7 minutes and 12 seconds. I was so overwhelmed. All I wanted to do was get off the stage. And then I said, I gave the researchers that were there 4 possible topics of research related to health and midlife, because that's what my focus was.
Yes.
And I was turning to leave, and they stood up and applauded, and tears rolled down my face, and I had to turn away. I was not expecting that. And then for the next 24 hours during the conference, people would randomly come up to me and tell me how much it meant to them to hear my story. I've been invited to speak in the United Kingdom. I've been invited to speak in Poland. I've been invited to speak in Australia. And I'm like, I would love to do all those things, but budgets are an issue. So if you can find the funding, I would be more than happy to come. And so far, nobody has taken me up on that. But
just give them time, Carl.
Well, I told my wife if I do get to go to Australia, she has to come with me.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
But these are the things. And I learned this when I was working on research for the panel on working in indigenous populations. It's the stories that make a difference, whether they're your own story or somebody else's. When you have your own story and you share your own story and you wear your emotions like they're your jacket, it has a really strong and powerful impact on people.
Because it's honest, Carl. It's honest and it's genuine.
And that's the thing. If I leave anybody with anything, it is to say that your story matters. And to go outside of your comfort zone and share your story is a powerful thing. And you will never regret doing so. People are like, how can you talk about yourself like that? And, well, first thing I did, I'm pretty much blind without my glasses for distance. So the first thing I did was I took off my glasses so I couldn't see past the end of the podium.
I love it. I love it. Good call.
I'm basically standing there blind, looking out over nothing. And then they had the bright lights on in the back, focused on the stage. And so I literally couldn't see anything. And I spoke from the heart. I had my notes, told me when to breathe. And I wrote it right into my notes, breathe, because if you don't, you're going to fall over. And I got through it, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
I think you're going to be asked many times, Carl.
Yeah, that's
on top of the work you're already doing.
Well, my official retire date is September 30th.
Wow.
But the nice thing about retirement, if you want to call it that, because I wasn't getting paid for the work I was doing, but I'm stepping out of it, is that I can focus more on the stories and
Yes,
then pick and choose to do those when my health allows.
that's
So,
perfect.
and I couldn't ask for a better life than what I have now. So, yeah.
Carl, your story is remarkable. I love the resilience. I love the depth of character and understanding that you have of yourself and of your loved ones. I think many people, with or without the health challenges that you have and the disabilities,
Yeah.
plural, that you
Yeah.
have, um, could learn so much from your
Well,
perspective on life.
on the way to Seattle from Minneapolis, because we had to fly east from North Dakota to Minneapolis to go west to Seattle, the pilot came out and said, we're going to experience some turbulence. We have 3 levels of turbulence. You have number 1, where it's like riding a skateboard on the sidewalk. It's just a little bumpy. Number 2 is like potholes in the road.
Mhm.
And number 3 is where you grab your cowboy hat as you exit the airplane. He said, I've never experienced number 3, and we're not going to experience it today. And that's, like an analogy to my life. I have the bumpy road from the sidewalks and the skateboard, and I know I don't ride a skateboard. And I have the pothole road. And, some years are a bumpy road like the skateboard ride on the sidewalk, and other years are a pothole road. And I'm just in a pothole road of life. And, eventually the road's going to get repaired and we'll be back to normal. But we're not there yet. So, but let's see if we have some questions.
Absolutely. So we're going to do 2 things. I'm going to ask, we do have, we have 13 notes so far. It's lots of people greeting.
Yes, yes, I see
Um,
that.
there's lots of love in the room here, my friend. I'm
Yes.
seeing, let's see here. Oh yeah,
Deb,
there's, hey, Carl and Mary. Hello, everyone.
yeah,
Um,
Evelyn. Yep,
there's
sweetheart.
Evelyn and Lori reaching out,
Yes,
and Rebecca saying that, yeah, I think this resonates with everybody, that we do love your story. We
yes.
truly do.
When
Um,
I know some, and like Lori, I met through Jeff Noble's caregiver kickstart.
yes,
Yes.
yeah,
And Rebecca, I've met through other channels, and yes, just Tara, and Debbie,
yep,
all phenomenal people. So,
yeah.
but Debbie has her hand up.
She does. So Deb, I'm gonna change settings here
Go
so
ahead.
that folks can ask questions and unmute. Let me just unmute Miss Deb. Where'd we go here? Deb, did that work? Okay, nope, sorry, so bear
Nope.
with me, folks. I'm fiddly diddling around here. You may have to give hosting back to me, Carl.
I can figure that out. Host tools. Yes. Enable share screen rename. Nope, that's not it. Participant. Sorry. I've
That's
used
okay.
Zoom an awful lot, but that
I know,
doesn't
and they've
mean
just changed everything on it, which
they
totally
did.
messes me up.
Yes.
Um,
It's not
or
what
you
they're.
can unmute Deb too. That's an option,
Oh, well, yeah,
if
let's do
that's
that.
easier for you.
If it'll let me do it.
It might
Uh,
let you.
ask to unmute. That's all it does.
Okay, I think that worked.
There we go. Yay. Welcome.
Yeah, hi, Mary. Hi, Carl.
Hi,
Uh,
Deb.
yeah, we met you. My son and I met you last year in Seattle, and it was wonderful to meet you last year. And I have been sitting here in tears listening to your story. And
I'm sorry.
no,
Good tears.
it's good tears. You are so right. I mean,
Yeah.
stories are just so impactful, and I'm a writer myself too, and I know you've been
Oh, yes.
working on a book, and
Yeah.
Wyatt was listening with me, and that was really important for him as a young man in his 20s with an FASD, and he has fibromyalgia as well, so he was
Mhm.
really interested to know that about you, and it will help him with his journey because he's really struggled with a lot of that because he's got very impactful symptoms. So
Yeah, there is a researcher actually doing a study about nerve pain in people with FASD. And he spoke Sunday. I did not hear him, but
okay.
when I spoke about having fibromyalgia, he added me to his speech. So,
Wow.
so yeah, and he said their studies are currently with mice populations, but they are showing that it is a very real thing for people with FASD to have nerve pain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we had to get Wyatt off Cymbalta because that was just messing with
yeah,
his mental health. And
yeah, yeah. I had to leave Cymbalta for the same reason. Yeah,
yeah, and he's on gabapentin now, which seems to be helping. And then we do a lot of other therapies, massage therapy, a water therapy,
yeah.
and some more holistic things that are
Mhm.
helping.
Well, and he's unique because fibromyalgia by nature affects more women than men.
Mm-hmm.
And systemic lupus is the same way. They told me that prominently featured within 30 black females between the ages of 30 and 50. Now, I'm not a black female. So,
Yeah, you're not close to that at all, I'm afraid.
but nobody could ever explain how I was getting so sick and with so many weird illnesses. The fibromyalgia, the myoclonic spasms. And then
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, I was diagnosed with mesenteric paniculitis, which is like 1% of the population. I'm like, how did I get that? And it's an autoimmune disorder that affects the connective tissue in your abdomen. Like, where? So but the only thing that they can tie it to is it's somehow impacted by my FASD. So
Yeah.
every time I go to the doctor, I talk about FASD. Every time. I don't care if they're new to the team or old to the team. They will get a lesson on FASD from me. So speak up, Wyatt. Whenever you have to go to your medical team, speak up.
Yeah,
It'd be
he does. I mean, we actually this morning we were back at his high school presenting to the leadership class, and that was we
Yeah.
do it every year. You just touched on so many things that like were gave me the feels. And my husband, well, ex-husband, and my kids' dad was stationed in Germany, and sounded like he had similar experiences to you. He was in a lot of the places you mentioned. So
yes.
he passed away at
Yeah.
53 from cirrhosis of the liver, from all the things he
Yeah.
endured. But
Well, I learned how to drink beer in Germany.
yeah.
I gave up beer when I came home. Yeah, yeah, I gave up beer when I came home, but I learned how to drink it while I was there. So, yeah.
Had a little practice, did you, Carl?
Oh, a lot of practice. Lori's next, I think.
Yeah, so Debbie, thank you so much for
Well,
joining us, and I'm thrilled that Wyatt did too. That's
Yes.
wonderful. I think we
Yeah.
need to get the researcher who's doing the study
Yeah.
that spoke of Carl on Sunday. We need
Yeah.
to get his name so that we can connect you guys.
Yeah, I've asked for a connection to him. And
Beautiful.
it's easier to go through FASD United and the
Absolutely.
conference team than it
Yep.
is to reach out to him indirectly.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yes.
if you get the information, I can get it to Debbie.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so
And I gave you back host. I figured out how to do
yes,
that. So
I
yeah.
saw that. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes.
So thank you, Deb. We're going to jump over to Lori now and say welcome and hello.
Hello there, friends.
Hey, how are you?
So good to see you, Carl. It's been a while.
Yes, it has.
As you were speaking, I was thinking about the number of times we get asked about why it's important to get an FASD diagnosis.
Oh, yes. I talked about that too. Yes.
I wonder if you can just speak a little bit about what led you. I mean, given how much you know about FASD, I'm sure you could do the diagnosis yourself, right?
I've talked to parents actually about that, and I said, I'm not a clinician, I'm not a researcher, I'm just a guy that knows a little bit about this subject, and I strongly believe you need to pursue a diagnosis. Yes.
Yeah, and not to presume that you could diagnose anyone else, but for yourself. like
Yeah.
speaking for yourself,
Yeah.
you probably knew the answer before you asked the question.
Yes.
What does it, what has having the diagnosis done for you? And what drove you to really want to have that diagnosis? I mean, you could look at all the different diagnoses that you have and go, oh, well, you know, I just did not win the genetic gene pool, right?
Yeah.
And,
Well,
and
right.
chalk it up to that, right?
Well, except for the good looks part, Lori, right?
Well,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
he won that part. But
Yeah. The
the
gray hair,
medical,
the gray hair of wisdom,
yeah, well, I can speak to that too, and it's not gray, it's silver.
Right.
Let's just be clear about that. But
Yeah.
you know,
It's simple, really, and Mary and I'll be having another session like this in the fall. But briefly,
Yes.
the child that my wife and I adopted was diagnosed with trauma, was diagnosed with autism, was diagnosed with ADHD, was diagnosed in the end with FASD. And everybody told us not to pursue the FASD diagnosis because there would be no services and supports.
right.
Now, it's my belief, and I don't have any scientific basis for believing this, but it's my belief that the number 1 in 36 for those that are affected by autism is misleading simply because parents aren't getting an accurate diagnosis for their child that is born substance exposed. Which impacts those who need support that are born substance exposed. And I see it every day when I'm talking to a parent or I get a new call from another family and say, can you help us? You know, the school is doing this or not doing that. My child is struggling, can you offer any wisdom? And the key wisdom that I will offer any parent who has reached the end of attainable diagnoses is at some point, you're going to want to explore what you think is unthinkable and look at the possibility that your child was prenatally exposed. It's harder if they're adopted. I did have one birth family that still has their child, and we had to recommend that mom seek mental health support for herself when she got the diagnosis for her child. We don't stigmatize mom ever.
No, never,
No,
never.
Nope.
yeah,
Nope.
no. It's why. The addiction to alcohol or any drug is a disease. Everybody says that. My key to talking about it so frequently now, especially in regards to the people I support, is that the kids that are born substance exposed, by and large, a majority of them will develop some level of substance use disorder. And we're not addressing that at all. We talk about supporting mom in her use disorder and dad in his use disorder, but we don't talk about the child's future substance use disorder. Now, I'm lucky. I got out of the drugs before I turned 18. I have stayed away from alcohol for the most part since I left the military. But in our military community, alcohol is a mainstay everywhere.
Many
Yeah.
communities and employment communities.
Yes.
Exactly.
The railroad, you're talking, airline, air traffic
Everywhere.
controllers,
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
It is, it really is a big piece
It
of
is.
it, right?
And I'm not a teetotaler, somebody who's completely anti-alcohol. What I am is anti-alcohol while you're having a child. And granted, there's moms that are pregnant for 2 months, 2.5 months, and don't know they're pregnant and they're still drinking. And kudos to them for stopping if they choose to do so. Kudos to them for recognizing the pregnancy. But we still have doctors fresh out of rotation after medical school that are telling mom it's perfectly fine to drink alcohol while you're pregnant.
Oh, we have failed our Our
And
educational system has failed. Our doctors, nurses, teachers, social workers, psychologists,
Everybody.
you name it.
everybody, yeah.
They failed it.
You know,
But
we're doing a huge disservice to the next generation in our country.
we absolutely are. We continue to do a
Yeah.
huge disservice.
Right.
But thanks so much, Carl. You're
No,
amazing
it's
always.
it's an honor and a privilege anytime I get to talk to anybody about any aspect of FASD and prenatal alcohol exposure. An honor
We
and
love it.
privilege.
We love that you do this, and I hope that you can continue for as long as you can.
Well, the nice thing about picking and choosing what you do after you retire is that I will be able to continue to do this, at least at some level. But my wife has told me that she has a stack of quilting projects. I'm a sewing, I sew, that I need to complete before Christmas.
You're going to be busy, my friend.
Oh, yeah. I am going to be busy. We did put in abstract proposals because, like it was mentioned, I do have a book coming out, hopefully this next month in April, that features prominently FASD, autism, childhood trauma, and ADHD as the 4 pillars. And it's because of my son and my co-writer's sons who were both diagnosed with each of those 4 conditions. And it's stories, personal and fiction, and interventions and symptoms and research, a lot of research. And the reason we included the research is so that when somebody takes the book to their doctor or their practitioner, they can say, this is, what he says, and it's backed up by science. And the worst case scenario, the book ought to be heavy enough they could maybe smack him across the face. I won't advocate violence. But
That's it. Send me a case of them.
but sometimes there's doctors that are. We had one social worker that said, he's just going to end up in prison, so why does it matter? And you never say something like that to the parent. Never.
Can you imagine?
So,
I cannot wrap my head around the ignorance of people who should know better.
Yeah. And I get that she was frustrated. She was frustrated with the system we were dealing with and trying to change. And she was frustrated with me because I kept pushing. And she was frustrated with my son who didn't know how to stop what he was doing and still doesn't know how to stop what he's doing. And, but yeah, that's just, it's one thing.
But that doesn't give you the right to belittle another human being.
Right. It's one thing to think that. It's a whole nother thing to verbalize it. And to verbalize it to the family, it's just unthinkable. She has since apologized for that. And I count her as a good friend. I actually went to high school with her. But it was just born out of frustration. But no matter how frustrated you get, there are some things you never say.
Exactly.
So
anyway, I could not agree more with you on that point. Carl, I like the question that Lori asked, and I've heard you say tonight and previously that, getting your diagnosis of FASD validated a lot for you. It ticked a lot of boxes.
When I asked my wife if she thought I might have FASD, her response was, well, that's a no-brainer. So I had support at home going into that possibility that I might have FASD. And yes, I had long suspected that it was a possibility. And in talking to my son over the years, I always used my life up to 17 as an example. And I always tried to instill in him the idea that if he wanted to change the course of his life, he could.
Yes.
And then through writing the book, I learned so many things that I wish I'd known 20 years ago with him. He can't change the course of his life just by wishing. Wishing doesn't make it so. His brain isn't wired for that.
Exactly.
Exactly. If I'd known then what I know now, would I still have pursued an adoption? Yes, I would. I'm not sure the rest of my family always agrees with that sentiment, but I would definitely have still adopted him.
Carl, I'm right there beside you with my son. And I wouldn't have changed a thing. Absolutely nothing.
No.
He had.
I wouldn't be on this journey without him.
Same here.
There are things that I wish I could change about the journey, but the journey ultimately is what it is.
Yes.
And it's not about the destination. It's about the journey itself.
And the people that come along with you.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
Yeah.
I've met some incredible human beings during this process, and I've also met some human beings I'd like to go across the street to get away from. But by and large, the good outweigh the bad.
I agree with you on that statement as well. I I have never found a village
No,
like my village,
right,
with other individuals who are touched by this particular disorder, whether they're living with it, whether they're a caregiver, whether they're a researcher, it doesn't matter.
right,
I have never met such an open, honest, compassionate group of human beings.
right. One of my other kids has an autism diagnosis, and he has a near photographic memory. And like we always say in the autism community, because I'm a part of that too,
Yes,
um, if you see somebody with autism, you've seen one person with autism. And we need to apply that same thought and philosophy to FASD. If you see a child
absolutely.
with FASD, you've seen one child with FASD. And we had to educate our legislators here in North Dakota that not every child with the disorder has the physical features.
Yeah.
Less than 10% of them do. And they were blown away because I said, I guarantee you in this room, there's one person who has this disorder. And at
Yeah.
the end of the sentence, I said, that's me.
Yeah.
And you don't look like you have FASD.
Exactly.
Well, what is it supposed to look like? Well, your face is right. Your face looks like it should. Well, actually, my head is bigger than it should be because it's been measured, and the Army labeled my head as King Kong because they couldn't find one to fit and had to make it special. So, that's just the way it is. There's things outside of the traditional structure that you're used to seeing that aren't visible in everybody with the disorder.
Exactly. I think that's a really interesting point. Um, it's about sharing the knowledge
Yes.
with the general public every chance you get.
Yeah.
I know that, my husband is notorious for telling me that, Mary, all you talk about is FASD. And I'm like, well, it's a passion point for me.
Right.
I'm going to discuss this until I can't breathe
Right.
because the world in general just needs to know
Yes.
that, this is a very valid and valued population, and we're doing every single individual with this disorder a disfavor, and
Right.
that's just wrong,
You,
right?
there was a time when I could talk about the 1989 Freightliner 16-speed semi-automatic air operated clutch, just like I talked about FASD.
Yes.
And now I find it more stimulating to talk about FASD, even though I get easily annoyed at times.
Because we're talking about human beings.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I'm the same way. I've had a multi-path career, but I've never had a passion. I came out of retirement. I had to retire to support my son.
Yeah.
We adopted him at birth. He didn't get diagnosed until he was 11,
Yeah.
properly diagnosed, I should say. And Carl, once we moved from that chaos point to the calm, I immersed myself in
Yeah.
everything I possibly could about FASD, and it lit a fire in me that I
Yeah.
have never had my entire life.
Well,
Uh,
and I was that way about every diagnosis that we received for our son along the way.
yes.
And my son went last time I spoke to him was Christmas, and it was a month before he got released from prison. He said, Dad, he said, you need to keep telling my story
Yeah.
because I don't belong here.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand cause and effect. But that's a story for another time.
Yep. But interesting
Yeah, we
because
don't have enough time today to talk about
no,
that.
that's my topic tomorrow night with the
Yeah.
Youth Justice Committee
Yeah.
in the neighboring region. That's who we're talking to, and giving tips and tricks on how to support youth with this disability and what it looks like in the criminal
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
And at least they're open.
Right.
And I know that
Yeah,
that's a stepping stone to the one in the neighboring region as well. So
exactly.
Carl, I, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you. I know how busy you've been. I knew that you had to go home sick. Again, good news and troubling news travels fast. I
Yeah.
am so grateful you were recovered enough to join us tonight. Although I have a funny feeling you would have made yourself come anyways.
Oh, I would have, yeah.
I know you would
Yeah.
have.
So,
But
the issue is I've been doctoring a partially dislocated shoulder for almost 2 years. And
yeah,
I did so much walking and I didn't have a sling on and it rubbed wrong and it just made me ill. So
agony.
that's all it was. Yeah, it still
Yeah, but
hurts, but
that kind of pain's
you
not
know,
fun.
it's not. But
That's
and you
that's
know,
such a
I go to pain management and they're like, "Oh, you're just here for drugs." I'm like, "No, I'm
no.
allergic to what you would give me. I'm allergic to opioids." And yeah, I learned that after I had total knee replacement. Anyway, so
Wow.
I could go on, but just because we're seeking pain management doesn't mean we're our drug
Alex.
seekers. So
Yes,
make sure your son understands that. It's okay to seek
absolutely.
pain management. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I agree
Um,
with that statement too. I think that's something that I'm really pleased was being talked about at this year's Seattle conference
yes,
was the health challenges in the aging population
right.
who are living with this disability. That's something that I spoke to Jackie Pye with a few years ago and said, I love your towards healthy
Yeah,
outcomes. But I think you covered it all, but what about older
yeah.
age?
Well, and
What does that look like?
Susan Stoner from
Yes,
University of Washington is the one that presented the plenary that took place right after I spoke. And
yes.
we actually met on Zoom about a week before the conference. And our
Uh-huh.
goal initially was to talk about and make sure our individual talks meshed. And we
Yes.
didn't end up talking about our presentations. We just visited. So, so I went into it cold. I knew who Susan was. I'd met her. We had talked, and I knew that her topic was about midlife. And other than
Yes.
that, I did not know. So it was, and I strongly encourage the conference committee to do that in the future with other speakers where they get a chance to meet,
Yes.
because it it had an impact on both Susan and I. So, and then to find our presentations meshed so well was just mind-boggling to me because we didn't plan it that way. So,
It
but
was meant to be.
my initial speech as drafted was because I learned 2 weeks ago that I was presenting in Seattle at that moment. And my initial speech was going to be 11 and a half minutes. And they said, that's too long. So, uh, so I worked with somebody from FASD United and shortened it and got her down to 7.5 minutes. So,
Well done.
it worked out. It worked out fantastically. I wouldn't have survived for another 4 minutes. There's no way. So anyway, but
Well,
yeah, thank you for having me. And I look forward to talking with you in the fall. And hopefully in the fall, I'll actually have a copy of my book.
I'm counting on that.
And then,
I am absolutely counting on that. I
if
will
we get
purchase one.
if we
Yeah, I
get
will.
enough interest, I would be willing to do a giveaway of that book and we can send it to one of the audience members.
You know what, Carl? I'm
Yeah.
going to take you up on that.
Yeah.
And
Because,
I'm going to push you one step further and say, can we get that as an autographed?
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think you both need to
There's,
autograph that for us.
there's no point in doing it without doing an autograph. I mean, what's the purpose? Yeah, I don't know
Well,
that the autograph isn't going to add any value to it, but
oh, you know what?
So,
I suspect the lucky winner will challenge you on that.
yeah.
I can tell you right now that I would value your autograph, my friend, on a t-shirt.
Yeah. There's just some people that present in such a way that it has a significant impact. And I don't think I'm there yet, but I think I will get there where I will
Oh,
have a broader impact than I'm having currently.
Carl, you're closer to it than you realize.
Yeah.
And
Well, It's
if
that
I can,
self-deprecating thing that
yep,
comes to people with FASD.
absolutely.
So-
Absolutely. If I and Caroline here, both of us at Harrison's Hope, if we can be of any help and any support to you, you know you have it.
Well, I did
All you
share
have to
my
do is
email
reach out.
address. You know, if somebody wants to reach out, and I'm open book. If you ask a question, I'm more than happy to answer it.
Yep,
Just, you know, yeah, just
I
feel
am
free.
I am grateful to hear that, and I want to call out a comment that was just shared because I think it's really, really valuable. And it says, let me just get to it here. Do, 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 do. Yeah, this is beautiful, Carl. The system sucks. It
Yeah,
failed me so many times. I can resonate with all aspects of your story. I am on this journey for myself after my son's diagnosis. Yes, I am a birth mom who grew up in the system. I would love to chat with you about your late journey to diagnosis. Thank you for sharing your
yeah.
story.
As a, you know, as a teen, the system truly saved me. We're not
Yeah,
that lucky with everybody. I got lucky.
no,
Most people don't. Most people don't get lucky. So
yeah,
I'm one of those people that was able to be saved through the system, and I wish that more could experience that. But
I agree.
unfortunately, you know, it is what it
Carl,
is.
with your permission,
Hmm?
I know this person well, and
Yes,
it would be a privilege for me to connect the two of you together.
sure. Yeah,
And
that would be fantastic. Yeah.
I can vouch for this mom. She is a
Mhm.
remarkable person. She just doesn't realize it.
The thing that tells me that she's remarkable is that she even commented. You know,
Exactly.
if you weren't remarkable, you wouldn't have said anything. You would have just listened and then logged off and went about your day. But
Exactly.
instead, you decided to address what we call the elephant in the room, and you asked Maggie and CJ Lutke from the Changemakers about the elephant in the room. They'll talk
Yep.
to you about it all day long, but you address it head on, and that to me
Yeah.
tells me that that is a worthy conversation to have. I would be
Yeah.
honored. Yeah.
Thank you, Carl. So my friend Tara, I will definitely make sure you connect with Carl.
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, I have met the most amazing people in my village, Carl. And Tara is a great example of that, as are you. This
No,
was,
the village is the people we invite in.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really is. And
Yeah.
I feel incredibly lucky that we had you join us tonight. I can't wait to have you back in the fall. I can't wait to get my copy of your book. I can't wait to distribute your book widely.
That's,
It's,
that's not the first. We actually gave a sample copy of one chapter to the team from Facets
yes.
at the international conference, and Stacy said, "I can't give this back to you because I want to finish reading it and then I want to write a review." So, and
Yes.
we gave her the chapter on confabulation. So,
Oh, perfect.
yeah, yeah. So, you know, and yeah, the book is just full of it. And we have a website on the back end that we're going to put a whole lot of stuff on that's free.
Oh,
So yeah, it's not just a book. We're trying to build a whole community here around the book and the topic and all of the things. So
well, if you send me
I will.
a link
Mhm.
and a promotion piece on it, it will be on our website and our social media as well.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
No, that's a given, my friend. It is a given because
Yeah.
again, you
Oh,
are now,
I got this through Jeff
I know, isn't it
Noble's
great?
Caregiver Kickstart.
Yep, I got a few of those
this
myself.
this Yeah, when I
You
go to a
can
meeting about FASD, this is my uniform. I wear this to schools, I
definitely,
wear this to the legislature, everywhere. This is my uniform. If I'm talking about fetal alcohol, I've got them in red, blue, and black.
I
And I think you
love it.
can get them on, if memory serves, you can get
Red
them on
bubble.
Amazon.
Oh,
Redbubble, there
yes.
you go.
Yep.
And I'll find out for sure, and I'll send a link to Mary to share with everybody. Because yeah, this is my work uniform. You know,
Yeah, I
and
love it.
somebody said, "Do you have any other shirts?" No.
No,
Yeah. So, and people are like, why do you always wear that? And I said, well, I don't always wear the same shirt. That's a starter. I have a whole lot of these shirts. So, and you know, Friday when I spoke, I actually wore a jacket and tie. And I would,
I saw.
so,
No, my friend, you clean up really nicely.
yeah, somebody said, are you gonna shave? Are you gonna trim your beard? And I said, no. And I was standing outside. I like a cigar once in a while. I was standing outside the hotel smoking a cigar. And some random lady walked up to me and asked me if I was her guide to go to Mount Rainier.
Wow.
I
And
was,
you went,
I was,
I don't know.
I was wearing a
Which side
denim
we got?
jacket, my t-shirt, blue jeans, and my hiking boots. And I said, do I look like your guide? Yes. I said, ma'am, I said, I think I'd get us lost. So that was, yeah. So anyway, you know, but I should let you go. I appreciate this so much, Mary, and to
No.
everybody that was able to be on the call tonight. And anybody that listens to this and watches this in the future, I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. You'd have no idea what it means to me.
Carl, you are an absolute gem, and you are now a bona fide member of the Harrison's Hope family. So
Well,
you are
is it,
welcome back anytime, as
Yeah.
many times as you wish.
yeah, it is like Rebecca said, it's an honor. You know,
Well,
yeah,
your
yeah, thank you.
your message and your story is so incredibly important, and we are the ones that are grateful. So
Yes.
let's keep talking, my friend, and we
Yes, do
are
that.
going to make a difference.
Oh, yes, it's just a matter of timing.
Yeah. Time and volume, we'll get them.
Yes, right?
All right. Thank you
Yes,
to
thank
everybody
you.
that joined us tonight. Blessings to you all. And you know how to get a hold of me if you want to get a hold of Carl. All
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone. Much
Thank
love
you.
to all.
Be
Take
well.
care.